this is, one of the things, we spoke, as the audience doesn't know, but we know we spoke in Cannes. And one of the things that fascinated me was that you had never done a feature before. You've been an animator for many years, Oscar-winning animator, never wanted to make a feature. Why didn't you want to make a feature?
And I even hardly considered making a feature. I considered a little bit like would be interesting, but I didn't see it happening for a number of reasons. You have to. I've looked at colleagues who start trying to convince producers to be interested in their first feature, and they just struggle year after year to sell their idea and to get people interested. And it's such hard work, and they have to be a salesman basically for their project. And I watched them, and I thought that's not for me. The other reason is that short films are actually very fulfilling. It's not like, because I've noticed sometimes people think that short films are like an early stage, but eventually you will do serious work. You will work on a feature. Whereas I go year after year to short film festivals, and I've seen thousands, and it's a very strong art form. So I was actually very satisfied to stay there.
Yeah, and also one of the things you said that I was fascinated by was that with a short film you can make all the decisions yourself.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, and I think that applies probably to literally all of my colleagues who make short films. There's something just perfect about going somewhere, maybe alone, maybe with a few friends, sit down and make your film. It may take you 6 months and take you 3 years, but you have total control. You can decide to chuck something out and start again or whatever. There's something very clean, perfect about that no one will interfere, no one will say time is up or the money is up or something. You just do it. I sometimes compare it with poetry and writing a novel also, because it's short enough to express one very pure, very personal thing, and that's it. Whereas a novel, you have to do research, you have to make sure it sells, etc.
Yeah. So I know, you got a note, a letter that changed your mind. So
you want me to
tell the story?
It?
Yes, it's a great story.
Actually, I'm deviating a bit. I just want to thank you. It's a privilege to be here with you.
No,
thank you
likewise.
So much.
No,
thank you.
It's a marvelous film.
So I got a letter from Studio Ghibli, which is a studio that makes a film that I literally adore. Really fantastic films in Tokyo, animated films. And Studio Ghibli is 3 guys. It's Hayao Miyazaki, it's Toshio Suzuki, and it's Isao Takahata. Miyazaki is, of course, world famous. Takahata too, a bit less. They are the 2 veteran filmmakers who have turned out film after film. Suzuki is the producer, who is actually very powerful behind them, more discreet in the West, not discreet in Japan. he's very charismatic in Japan. And Miyazaki was busy with The Wind Rises. He didn't know about this, but Takahata and Suzuki decided to write to me saying, Michael, would you be interested to make a feature film with the same sensitivity as Father and Daughter? Because Father and Daughter is the short film that I made a few years before that. And because we like Father and Daughter very much, and if you think of making a feature film, we would like to produce it together with our distributor Wild Bunch in Paris. We would be co-producers. And it didn't even say, could we meet because we would like to talk with you? It just said, let's work together. And I was
great.
Yes, it was unbelievable. So I replied yes straight away, and I immediately had questions like, you mean you want me to come to Tokyo to make the film, or do you have a story you want me to make? And they said, no, you stay where you are, you make the film in Europe, propose a story, propose a design, let's just take it step by step. This is the first time we contact a non-Japanese director to make a film. It's the first time for you to make a feature. It may not work out, but let's just try.
Wow. And the idea, why a desert island? Why did this come to you as once you were going to do something, why this?
And at the same time, I didn't want to say just yes because it was a lovely invitation to make a film. But I already, right from the first day, I wanted to feel some kind of solid basis that I would say yes because there's something that I would like to express. I've written the stories of all my short films, and they've worked for me. But I'm not a storyteller. I mean, I'm not the kind of person who just turns out stories just like that. I've just written a few that worked for me. So to write a story for a feature film is a challenge. It's not something you just do. But there was one thing that immediately came to mind. I'd even written something about it about 10 years earlier, and that's the well-known theme of a castaway on a desert island that we all know directly from Robinson Crusoe or indirectly through many variations. And I've known it since childhood. I've read the book. I think it's archetypal. It's about life. It's a cracking suspense story because a lot of things can happen, but it's also symbolic about life. And I really wanted to exploit that idea, at least to start the film. Definitely not to tell the Robinson Crusoe story, which is more of its time. It's about dominating nature. So I had that. That was my first spark. I thought, now this could be fantastic for a feature film. It's too big a theme for a short film, but with a feature film you can really explore the place and you can explore the people. Because I knew straight away that he would not leave the island, he would stay there. But why would he stay there, and what would he do? What do you do when you're alone on a desert island? That's such a simple question, and that really fascinated me. So that's one. Then I also thought, then there needs to be a woman. not Friday, no, a woman. The story of finding a local person and calling him Friday, okay, that's in the book, that's fine. And no, but seriously, I thought there would be a man meeting woman element in a very simple, pure form. Not about big dramas and big flirting, but just very simply, very naturally coming together. A bit hesitant because it's strange for them to meet, but same time they really want to meet. And I thought that would be great to express in a film. Then, when you have seen the film, you know that I want to express something more than just an entertaining story. It's something about bigger than one life of one person. And finally, just to express my awe for nature, my deep respect for nature, nature with capital N. I mean, big nature, about the way light falls, about death, about just everything in nature.
Yeah. What I know you spent some time. You went to one of the Seychelles Islands just to kind of. You took a lot of pictures. I mean, you just wanted to kind of immerse yourself.
Yes.
Give a sense of that.
Yes. That's exactly the right word, immerse, because you can find all the pictures you want on the net. It's I mean, more than enough pictures.
Yeah.
I chose the Seychelles because the granite rocks, the very ancient rocks, are round and almost sensual. They're quite beautiful, and the Seychelles advertise in the holiday brochures. They advertise those rocks. That's one, and secondly, there was a direct. I live in London, so there was a direct flight to the Seychelles, because they're beautiful islands in Polynesia and other parts of the world. But I was working under pressure, and the idea of spending several days flying and being totally jet lagged and so on when you were under pressure. And there, I just wanted to immerse myself, feel the smell the smells, feel the heat, even though the film won't have a smell, etc. Hear the local birds, see what the rain looks like in that ambience, see what the sunset looks like in that ambience, etc. But also literally get little ideas of the insects, of the particular spider, the millipede. I got the idea from finding them there. I was lucky enough to see a turtle two times there. I didn't expect that. It was like a bonus. One laying eggs and one in the sea, and I was swimming with her, and I introduced some little details from that as well.
Interesting. What, I think one of the first things that people will notice about this film, no dialogue. How did that, was that an idea from the beginning? Did it just naturally develop? And why did you like it?
It was not an idea from the beginning. I really believed we needed some dialogue. You start the story without, and he just does what he does, and he doesn't talk. Human sounds, obviously, but no words. And then when he is not alone anymore, then I thought, okay, yeah, really, just a few sentences, just to feel the natural relationship between them, even if what they say is not important. But also at 2 or 3 points, some sentences which explain a bit clearer what people feel. Like the adult son wants to tell his parents, I really want to go. I want to leave. I want just a few words there to explain that. And it didn't feel right. In this film, it just didn't feel right. And I thought it's because I didn't have the proper recordings of real actors. They were temporary recordings. But that was not it. And at some point, working on a storyboard, I had help from a co-writer at the final stages.
I was going to ask you about that.
Pascal Ferrand, who is a filmmaker and who is very experienced and very sharp. And she said, the dialogue doesn't work, we need to work on that. So she increased the dialogue, she changed the dialogue, and we tried this, we tried that. And in the end, the end result was basically we just dropped the whole thing. And it was not like a big statement, a film without dialogue. It was more like the film is actually naturally, can convey naturally that the dialogue is not necessary.
Yeah.
In short films, you have that a lot, that the dialogue, a dialogue-free short film is very common. So it was not, for me, it was not like a crazy experiment.
Yeah. Did he help you at all? Did he offer any advice?
So my relationship with Studio Ghibli was basically during the writing, which took 5 years.
Wow.
Writing took a few months, but the storyboarding, doing the animatic, which is the same thing, that took a long time, because a lot of those months I was working alone, and there were a lot of sequences which I drew and then took out again, and drew new ones and took them out again. And I tend to make quite neat drawings for the storyboard, so it was a slow process. And during that process, I went to Tokyo on a regular basis, just to keep them informed about the progress. And also, they were very, especially in the beginning, they were very alert, because is it going to work? They liked the script, but is it going to work in a film? So it's not just like a casual meeting. It was really like, is everything going well?
Yeah.
And right from the first meeting, I explained to them that I really wanted their feedback. They were a bit surprised by that. They thought I would be so self-confident that I would know everything. On the contrary, I felt like it's not just a privilege to have their feedback, but I needed their feedback. Partly because they are experienced filmmakers, partly because they have Japanese sensitivity, which I find fascinating, and partly because Takata himself, he's hypersensitive. When you see his films, he has a fascination with the symbols, the emotions, the metaphors, the ambiences, and so I really want to discuss that with him. And it was, without exception, not always easy, but without exception, always like fabulous to sit. You sit there around a table. You have Takata Suzuki. There was an American who worked there, and he retired since, Steve Alpert, the interpreter, sometimes another interpreter, and 4 other Japanese people. I don't know where they were there. And we would just talk together, and I was thinking, this is incredible. Sometimes we were in a room where we're sitting on a tatami mat, talking literally on the floor, eating those rice triangles. And I thought, this is fabulous. But apart from that, obviously the comments were very good. Sometimes we did not agree. Sometimes Suzuki and Takata did not agree. It's not about the perfect advice at every moment. It was just more like, let's look at things and find out the best solution.
Yeah. What... this is a hand, except for the turtle, this is hand-drawn, but it's hand-drawn with a very particular instrument. So I'd like you to kind of talk about that for a minute.
Yes. So I'm a classic animator in the sense that I've got pencil in my hand and I've got papers in front of me, and I just draw like thousands and thousands of animators have done over the years, and that is changing very rapidly now, because exactly the same drawing skills can be applied to a digital pen, and you draw on a screen instead of on a sheet of paper. And I mean, you literally see the line coming out of the pen, so it feels the same. It's a Syntake, and one of the most popular softwares is TV Paint. And we adopted that system because it gives me more creative control as a director, because it's very easy to make changes all the time without rubbing things out and rescanning and refilming. So it's more efficient. It has magnificent little tools to check the quality of your drawing. Just to give you an example, if you draw something in a far distance but you want to be accurate, you sit there with your nose on the drawing a tiny person doing a walk cycle. That's challenging. Now with the same the same skills, but using drawing on a screen, the Syntake tool, you can just blow the whole thing up and draw it much larger, make sure it works well, and then reduce the size to fit it in the film. Little details like that.
Yeah, save you a lot of work.
So it saves the work. It's more efficient. It's also more efficient to create coherence between the different animators, which is always a major worry. And it was more economical on the whole for the budget, so it allowed me more time to spend at the end more time on refining things.
Yeah. And one of the things, I know that the film took you what sounds like a long time. It's a long time. It took 9 years. But you told me in Cannes, I thought it was so interesting, you said you like to work with smaller groups taking longer rather than big groups going faster. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was an obvious choice from the beginning. I don't know who started talking about it, but it was agreed between the producers and me that for a first-time feature maker, you make mistakes. You have to learn from. You have to sometimes take a step backwards in order to take several steps forwards. And for me to suddenly make a feature with a huge team in a short period of time would be too challenging. Would rather, during the process, I was still exploring, exploring the poetry of the story. So it's more efficient to have a small team over a longer period of time, and that's I have to credit the producers, those who have invested in the film, because they like to see the return of their investment quite soon, and they tend to shorten the production time if possible. But all of them, without exception, they totally accepted that in this case, it's wiser for the quality of the film to allow for more time. That's
amazing that they were. This doesn't sound like producers we know in America.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. We were not an existing studio. We were a team of freelance animators from all over Western Europe, mostly French. And we came together in an existing studio, Prima Linea, in Angoulême, southwest France.
I'm curious, one of the things I couldn't ask you at Cannes because it hadn't happened yet, I wondered if, you've shown the film a lot of places, it's played a lot of places. Has anything surprised you about audience reaction to the film?
What has surprised me most? I knew it would not be a film for no film is for everybody. This one isn't either. Because it has a poetic element and it has a relatively visual silence. It's not a roller coaster. It's pretty contained. I knew it would not be easy for all members of the audience. Yeah. That was confirmed. As some people say, I don't know why I didn't enjoy it, etc. I got very, very beautiful comments, also very profound comments. Yeah. On the whole, I'm surprised how well it's doing in France. very nice number of spectators.
Great.
It has been in the French cinemas since the end of June. It's still showing
It's
now.
still there.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Also in Holland, it has not been out in many countries yet. And during the making of the film, I was really hoping it would be a success in Japan. Just before the film was finished, Suzuki, the producer, said, Japanese like Japanese films, and they've got plenty of animated films locally. Basically, he was warning me that Japanese actually they're much more interested in their own films than imported animated films. And even though this is a Studio Ghibli film, it's imported, and that turned out to be true. I was hoping that it would be a huge success in Japan. It's really the numbers are nice. It's well shown. The critics are incredibly positive. But the spectators, the very young spectators, the adolescents, young adults, tend to be much lower than we expected. It's more the slightly older spectators.
Yeah. Are you going to do another feature? What do you think, or is one enough? Or are you still thinking about it?
I'm literally still thinking about it. I haven't had a break since the film was completed. It was fabulous. It nearly killed me. But it was literally even the days where I felt utterly worn out, and facing some major problems, like we are very late on this part of the film. We have to lower the quality in order to catch up. That's awful, those moments. Yeah, even those days, I felt like, but do you realize, for God's sake, isn't this incredible? I really, really, really enjoyed this. Yeah. So I have to take a break and then think about a new film.
Yeah. What, I read in the press notes, one of your collaborators said that you were a great perfectionist. And I wonder how that played out with this film. Was it hard to let it go, and how do you feel about it now?
Yes, that was a word which was pronounced many times. I even had producers preaching to me about perfectionism, and I just let them preach, and then I forgot about it. Because it's every producer's nightmare that animators have a tendency to be perfectionists. That they just go over budget or over production time. It's so often. It happens so often that it's almost like normal, and they imposed a production period with much insistence, and they told us, don't go over the budget, and don't go over the length of the film, because films tend to become longer than originally planned, and we stayed within all those parameters, luckily. But there's a tendency, the artist wants to perfection the existing work, and refine it even more, and the producer says time is running out, you have to move on, and there's this dynamic. But I've done many commercials in London, and I know exactly that the deadline is the deadline, and if you too slow on one part, you have to compromise elsewhere, and you balance. So I found a very simple solution. It's a bit masochistic, but in order to be a perfectionist, I just stayed much later at work and kept on retouching and went back the weekends and so on. My collaborators, the animators, they obeyed a French law which tells you should not work longer than 39 hours a week. So they were nice and fresh and awake all the time. And I spent until after midnight working. But that's part of the profession. That's how I've worked, and how so many people work.
But you're happy? I assume you're happy with the film?
So yes, so the perfectionist side of me was alive. Luckily, the producers, they could see that. They could see it was essential. So they allowed for a kind of margin where I could still go over old bits that I had validated at the time, but I wanted to chuck out and redo anew. And there was some space for that. So I got the weakest parts of the film I could retouch, and that's very satisfying. Many films, you don't have that in many films.
Great. Yeah.
So on the whole, yes, no, I'm very pleased. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, I think we are pleased too. I know I'm pleased. So thank you for your time and for the
Thank
film,
you.
for the wonderful film, and best of luck with it.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
Thank you.